The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. Thank you for joining me on this rainy, dreary, Hurricane Sandy Monday morning. And it's been a rough weekend to say the least. You know, not a lot to cheer about on my end. I had a bad week, and it started on Thursday. We spoke about how the Thursday game is so important to getting off to a good start and really taking that momentum and carrying it through the weekend. Didn't happen for me, and I tried to psych myself up, tried to pump myself up into thinking that this was going to turn around. It was going to be different than the past weekends when I dropped the Thursday game, but it was no different. It was a splitting image of what went down in past weeks when I didn't win the Thursday night football game. Same thing happened when I didn't win, when the Rams took care of the Cardinals, when the Cardinals came into St. Louis undefeated and was just throttled on Thursday night football. Same thing happened to me again when the Steelers were upset by the Tennessee Titans just a few weeks ago on Thursday night football. Same thing happened to me this week as I took the Minnesota Vikings at home and they were upset and beat down by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so I had another rough weekend, and right now I'm actually 7-6, just barely clinging to a game over 500 with a win tonight, which I feel confident I will get, but you just never know. It's family business. You can never be too sure. And if I'll get the win tonight, I'll be 8-6 on the week, which, again, you can't be satisfied with 8-6. If you're satisfied and content with 8-6, then you don't need to be picking games. And so that just lets you know how disappointing of a week it was. And it didn't have to be that way. I went out on a limb a couple times and told you I was going to do that. One paid off, the other one didn't. And then this thing could be worse. I always say how frustrated and how disappointed I am in my record, but this thing could have been a lot worse. The Giants were literally 2 fingers away from losing that football game. I would have been 7-7 because of that loss. So, I mean, this thing could have been worse. We're talking the Bears were literally one stop away by the Panthers from losing that football game. I could have been 6-8 in addition to the Cowboys game if those 2 games would have went the opposite way. So, just looking at it, but then again, you look at it from a different perspective. You know, the Titans are a couple of bad calls from the referees and maybe a few plays that go their way from winning that football game. So, there's so many different games. Again, the NFL is a game of inches, and you just never know what's going to occur. You could always play the if game. If this would have happened, if that. I don't play the if game. What happened, happened. What's in the record books is in the record books, and right now I'm 7-6, looking to try to get to 8-6 and be 2 games over 500 for the week 8 of the Pick'em Weekly. So as we get into the games, this was a very disappointing week of football. I mean, we had a few games here and there that were good, but for the most part, there were a lot of sound beatings this weekend that took place. I call this weekend Week 8 Sunday Domination. And really, it should just be Week 8 Domination, because the beatings started to take place on Thursday. I mean, Tampa Bay kind of set the tone for this week of football, this Week 8 action, by beating up the Minnesota Vikings on the road and kind of set the tone for the rest of the teams. Like, look, if you go in, you don't turn the football over, and you play sound football, a lot of other teams that make the mistakes capitalize off those mistakes. You too can come away with your own sound thrashing, sound defeat of another football team. You too can dominate, as we did. We've given you the blueprint. Go in, play solid football, don't turn it over. Other team turns it over, you take full advantage of those turnovers, and you too can come away with your own dominating performance and get a win. And that's what a lot of teams did. I counted at least 5 this weekend. I mean, We talked about Tampa Bay dominating. The Redskins were dominated by the Steelers. The Jets were just absolutely shellacked at home by the Dolphins. Who saw that one coming? I thought the Dolphins could compete and possibly win that game, but to go in there and soundly destroy the Jets, and I mean, that game was never even close, never. I mean, we're talking 20-0 late first, early second quarter. That game was out of control. And you look at the Sunday night matchup between the Broncos and the Saints. That one was not close. That was a domination game. The Eagles were dominated by the Falcons. That's 5 games right there. I could be missing 1 or 2 others, but I mean, we're talking about sound domination on the part of a lot of teams on Sunday. So there were a lot of good games. I mean, the best game of the weekend turned out to be the Giants and Cowboys. We'll get to that one later. Let's go down the slate of games. Let's go through the weekend that was and go slate skating and go through what occurred on Sunday.
The weekend.
The weekend that was.
We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating.
So we start our trip through the slate of games on Sunday in Cleveland, where the Browns were hosting the San Diego Chargers. And I told you I didn't like the Chargers, and I went against them, and this was one of my surprise picks. And I told you I thought that Cleveland would be able to take care of the Chargers at home. And it was not a pretty game, but again, that weather. And this was the case in a lot of stadiums across the NFL. With Hurricane Sandy and the remnants from her, it was not a very pretty ball game in a lot of instances in a lot of stadiums. A lot of teams struggled to adjust to the weather and the wet, rainy football and the slippery track that they were on. Whether you were in Cleveland or you were in Philadelphia or you were in Pittsburgh, I mean, it was rain all over the place and teams struggled to adjust. The Browns, however, are used to that weather. They play in Cleveland, and you have to be prepared to play in inclement weather if you play in Cleveland. And they were ready. They were prepared. They looked like a team that could adjust and handle the rain. Meanwhile, San Diego looked like they wanted to go back to San Diego. They really wanted no part of this weather. And the Browns made a key stop on 4th and 1 early in this football game, kind of set the tone for the day. They turn around, and Trent Richardson, who had a very, very good bounce-back game, I thought a week ago he shouldn't have played. I thought he was really nursing those ribs. And Trent Richardson is a special back because of his physicality. You take that away from him, he's just an ordinary back in the National Football League. So if he doesn't have his physicality, if those ribs aren't well enough for him to go out and be the bruising back that he is, then he doesn't need to play. And I thought last week he shouldn't have played. He played this week, and I was going to keep a close eye on him, and he performed. He was ready to go. He had on that Kevlar vest, and it proved wonders for him as he went out with the battering ram that he is, and he was able to score the only touchdown in this football game on a magnificent 33-yard run that was keyed by his offensive lineman holding him up after he pinballed off of a couple of San Diego Charger defenders. They were able to hold him up, keep his balance, and he was able to rumble into the end zone, what proved to be the game-winning score as the Browns went up 7-0 in this game. And the defense just took over from there. I mean, the Chargers had opportunities, but I give credit to this Browns defense. They really stepped up and stifled this San Diego Chargers offense. The Chargers did have one shot in this game. Robert Meacham streaking down the middle of the football field, wide open. If he catches this cleanly, there's a chance that he gets in the end zone. He had to wait on the football. Rivers did not give him a chance to catch it in stride, but nonetheless, the ball was there. It got to its destination. If he catches this cleanly, there's a chance he can get in the end zone. If they score a touchdown, I don't know if the Browns in this game were ready to have to score another touchdown. That one touchdown looked like that was it for the Browns, which it proved to be because the Browns didn't score another point in this game. Didn't have to, but again, I don't know if they were asked to have to score another touchdown. I don't know if the Browns would have been able to do so. Doesn't matter. Meacham was not able to reel in that pass from Rivers, and that was really the last hope for the San Diego Chargers in this game. I mean, they put together a drive at the end of the game on their last possession to try to get in the field goal range, but the Browns did just enough to stifle that San Diego Chargers offense and pretty much hold them in their tracks after getting across midfield and threatening to get into field goal range. and putting the clamps down on them, getting that final stop, and holding on to the win 7-6 as the Chargers, losers of 3 straight, now are 3-5 on the season. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns notched their second win of the season, going to 2-6. And it wasn't a pretty game. But again, the weather was not pretty either. And so the weather and the play on the field kind of matched each other. But the Browns were able to play good enough defense and get that one timely score. And that proved to be the difference in the game as the Browns get the victory, 7-6, take their record to 2-6, drop the Chargers, who have now lost 3 straight to 3-4 on the season. And I tell you, it's going to be tough sledding for these Chargers. I don't know where you go. Ryan Matthews put the ball on the ground again in this football game. You can't trust him as a running back. And you just don't know where to go from here if you're the Chargers. Think they're going to struggle for the remainder of this season because really there's no accountability here on this football team for the Chargers. I think they're having the same issues that the Eagles are having. There's no accountability. Everyone's looking to point the finger at someone else. No one's willing to say, you know what, I need to be better. You know, I need to do a better job at doing the things that I can do to help my team win the football game. And if we all do that collectively, coaches, players, if we all do a better job of doing our job, as a team we'll come together and we'll play better football. But that's not what the Chargers are doing. That's not what the Eagles are doing. They're just pointing fingers. Everyone's looking for a scapegoat, and that's how you continue to lose football games. That's how the locker room falls apart, and that's how you see things change in the offseason. And I think ultimately in both of these situations, in Philadelphia, and we'll talk about them a little bit later, and in San Diego, things are going to change in this offseason. So the Chargers drop another one on the road to the Browns. So next up, we find ourselves in Detroit where the Lions were welcoming the Seattle Seahawks. And both of these teams came off of hard-fought losses a week ago against divisional opponents. And they were looking to rebound in this game. And Detroit needed this one bad. You know, both of these teams could use a win. But Detroit, they're clinging to any hope of having a season. This is a playoff team from a year ago. And right now they're struggling. They can't score points. They're not winning ball games. And if they don't turn it around quickly, especially in the division that they play in, with the Packers and the Bears playing such good football, and the surprising Minnesota Vikings right there playing good football as well, they're running out of time. The hourglass is starting to run out of sand. So they needed one bad, and they started out this game undisciplined, and that's been one of the knocks for this Detroit Lions team since Jim Schwartz has taken over as head coach. They're not a disciplined team. And they started this game out with penalty after penalty after penalty. They had 4 penalties in the first 4 minutes of this game, leading to a Seattle Seahawks field goal. They answer that field goal with a touchdown. And then they give up a 77-yard run to Marshawn Lynch. And it just takes the air out of that crowd, out of that stadium, and you know, all of a sudden, Seattle has all the momentum. They tack on another touchdown, and before you blink, it's 17-7. Seattle Seahawks up in this football game. And they were reeling. And they got the big play that they need. They get that shot in the arm that they need, and they needed it desperately. As I just stated, they were trailing 17-7 in this game. And if they go 3 and out here, which it was a really, really good possibility of having happen, without this completion, this game, I tell you what, they punt this football, and I tell you, I don't think they win this football game. I mean, the momentum had really jumped ship, and Seattle had everything going in their favor at this point. But Titus Young got behind Richard Sherman, and Stafford put it up there beautifully. Titus Young went and got it. They get in the end zone on a nice deep ball connection, and that turned the game around for the Detroit Lions. They get that touchdown, cut it to 17-14, and that was a big touchdown for the Lions. Cutting that lead to 3. The defense got involved after the momentum started to jump ship in the favor of the Lions. And Russell Wilson throws a beautiful deep ball. Let me just say that before we continue to talk about the comeback that the Lions put forth. In this little stretch of play where the Seahawks weren't able to get on the board and allowed the Lions to climb back into this one and ultimately take the lead, Russell Wilson did his part to try and help his team maintain that lead. He threw a gorgeous deep ball to Sidney Rice, and it just went off of his fingertips. It's a ball that Sidney Rice needs to corral. He needs to catch. And if this Seattle Seahawks team wants to take it to the next level, those are plays that you have to complete. You don't get many opportunities to make big plays in football games, and when they present themselves, you must take advantage of them. And I thought that was a gorgeous deep ball. That's one thing I can say about Russell Wilson, is he throws a gorgeous deep ball. I mean, there's perfect air under it, great touch, beautiful arc. I mean, it just lands in the precise spot that it is intended to go, and it is a thing of beauty. And Sidney Rice did not help his quarterback out on that particular play, and they ultimately had to punt on that possession. And it's drives like that, it's plays like those that you don't make, that stall out, that cause you to lose football games. Sidney Rice comes down with that pass. Seahawks are in business at the Lions 15, 12-yard line, somewhere right in that range. Say you don't pick up another yard, you're in range for a 29-yard field goal, 32-yard field goal. That can be all the difference in this game. These are things that you need to have happen and go in your favor to win ball games, and you can't have breakdowns like that in the football game and not make plays that are there to be made. And so the Lions take advantage of them not converting on that deep ball. Seattle's forced to punt. Matthew Stafford and that Lions offense, they continue to get it going. They end up scoring another touchdown, a 1-yard touchdown run by Matthew Stafford. And now all of a sudden the Lions are in the lead 21-17. And the Seahawks were reeling in this football game after leading 17-7 and really feeling like they had command of this game. They see the game slipping away right before their eyes. And so they have to do something. They put together a gorgeous drive with a little bit over 5 minutes remaining to take the lead 24-21 in this game. And again, Seattle always puts themselves in position to win football games. And the disappointing part about this loss for the Seahawks is the offense did everything that it took to win this game. The strongest part of this team, which is that Seattle Seahawks defense, is what let them down in this game. You grab a 17-7 lead early in this ball game. If you're Seattle and you're the offense, you say, hey, we've done our part in this game. We might be able to scratch and claw and scrape together another field goal or two, maybe one more touchdown. But we spotted you a 17-7 lead in this game. Handle the rest of it. You know, take care of this win. Bring it home. And again, 17 points isn't going to be enough to win most games in the National Football League. But what that says is now they have to score more than 17 to beat us. We're going to score. It's early in the ballgame. We're going to score more points. But just know that we've spotted you a 17-7 lead. Now you have 10 to 13 points to which to play with. That should be enough to get us a victory. And that's a reasonable expectation for that Seattle Seahawks offense. If we put up 24 in a game, we should come away with a victory. With as good as our defense is supposed to be, that should be enough to win. Well, in this instance, it just wasn't. The Detroit Lions get the football back. Matthew Stafford takes his team down the field again. And they get to the 3-yard line. And that defense starts to stiffen. Stafford rolls out on first down. Isn't able to find anyone, throws it away. Second down, he avoids a sack and gets rid of the football after nearly going down. And they didn't have any more timeouts. So a sack wasn't an option there. So he barely escaped the sack and got rid of it, threw it away. Third down, and now you're thinking, if we can get a stop, and if you're Seattle, you're thinking, if we can get a stop, that's a win for us. Because that's the best case scenario for us. Other than, of course, a turnover, which would seal the game. getting a stop and forcing overtime if they were to make this field goal would be a win for the Seattle Seahawks defense. After having first and goal from the 3 and not allowing them to get in and forcing them to kick a field goal, that's a win for the defense. But they weren't able to get that stop on third down. Matthew Stafford throws a perfect football to Titus Young, low, and in only a position that Titus Young can make a play on the football. And he goes down and gets a slant touchdown. Detroit Lions are ahead 27-24 in this ball game. Kick the extra point and go ahead 28-24. And that's a tough pill to swallow if you're the Seattle Seahawks. After leading for the majority of this game and having, your defense not be able to come through when you need them the most and secure a victory on the road. You did all you could do if you're the offense of the Seattle Seahawks, and your defense, which has been the catalyst for this 4-4 start, lets you down. It's a tough pill to swallow, but again, it happens. It's the National Football League, and it's a team game. Can't really point fingers. Just got to go back to the drawing board and see how you can stop the bleeding, because this Seattle Seahawks team was once 4-2. 2 games later, you're 4-4, and that means you dropped 2 straight. And you don't want to fall too far behind in this division. It was just a week ago you were battling the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday Night Football for the division lead. Now, you're just clinging to try to stay relevant in the discussion for even competing for the NFC West title. That's the danger zone that you're starting to climb into, and you don't want to find yourself in that danger zone. The San Francisco 49ers, if they get it done on Monday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals on the road, which I fully expect them to be able to do, it would give them a 6-2 mark on the season. And again, that's a full 2-game lead, and they've already beaten you once this season. You don't want to start getting into that danger zone. The NFC is wide open this year. So just winning football games and staying around, even if you don't win your division, you might can get in with a wild card berth, because it's wide open. There are not a lot of good teams in the NFC this year. So if you're Seattle, you got to find a way to get on track, get a victory, because you're still a good football team. You still play really good defense, and this offense is slowly coming along. You got to be able to win games like this one. You had this one and you let it slip through your fingers. You got to go back to the drawing board and see if you can turn this thing around before it's too late. Seahawks are now 4-4 on the season. The Detroit Lions, who desperately needed this one, go to 3-4 on the season and are slowly trying to climb back into the NFC North race. And really, they're not going to win that division. I think that ship has already sailed. If you're the Detroit Lions, you just want to win as many games as you possibly can and just try to climb back into the NFC, period, to see if you can snag one of those remaining wild card berths. Because, again, you're not going to win the division and beat the Bears out for the division title or the Packers. So you have to find a way to just try to win ball games, see if you can get in through the back door with a wild card berth. Moving right along, the Jacksonville Jaguars traveled to Green Bay, and what I had as my sole survivor pick of the week, I thought this was a no-brainer. I thought this was as easy as it gets. I was wrong, but I was wrong because I didn't have the information privy to me, and really everyone assumed Jordy Nelson was going to suit up. I thought Jordy Nelson was going to play, and he didn't play. He's a late game scratch, game time decision that just didn't go the way the Packers were hoping. And so what that did was it put Aaron Rodgers down to his 3rd and 4th options at receiver. I mean, he was out there throwing to Jared Boykins, the receiver out of Virginia Tech, I think from about 2 years ago. I mean, it was bad. I felt bad for Aaron Rodgers, and it showed. I mean, that Jaguars defense, we've already spoke about the Jaguars defense. This is a defense that will keep the Jaguars in the game as long as they possibly can until the Jaguars offense continues to implode, and then they can't hang on anymore. There's only so much you can do as a defense if you're not getting help from your offense before the game just slips away. And that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars do on defense. They hang in until that offense just continues to make mistakes or just continues to go 3 and out. And they can't hang in anymore. And that's what they did against the Packers. I thought that the Packers came out in this game and they were flat. And Jacksonville was able to hang in early. Again, the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a good team. They don't have a lot of talent offensively. They can't get it done. They don't get in the end zone enough. They were able to get an early field goal, but they should have been getting in the end zone while the Packers were struggling. The Packers get in the end zone. Aaron Rodgers connects with Randall Cobb on a short touchdown pass, gives the Packers a 7-0 lead. They block a punt. Special team steps up for the Packers as they were struggling on offense. They get that, recover it in the end zone, and just like that, it's 14-3, and I'm thinking, okay, this thing is about to get out of control. But no, this Jaguars defense was playing sound football. They were getting to Aaron Rodgers. They were really pressuring Aaron Rodgers, sacking him. They forced about 2 fumbles on Aaron Rodgers in this game, leading to Jaguar field goals. Again, they're getting the ball, turning it over, giving the ball to their offense in prime position to score, and they can only muster field goals. And that's the difference between good teams, and that's another difference between good teams and bad teams. Good teams take these turnovers in prime field position, turn them into 7. The bad teams, they can only muster a field goal. And those things catch up with you in the end. In the long run, you keep kicking field goals, good teams score touchdowns, you're probably going to lose the football game. And the Jaguars just continued to kick field goals in this game. Field goal after field goal after field goal. They got in the end zone once, went for 2, didn't get it. And that kind of bit them in the butt as well, because when you go for 2 early in the football game and you don't get it, now those are points that you're going to have to chase down later on. And that always kept them from having a chance in this game. As their head coach, Mike Mularkey, he should know better. This isn't his first rodeo as a head coach. He should know better that you don't go for 2 in that situation. Going for 2, they were down to 12-14 in this game. He wanted to tie it up. He didn't need to do that. Because if the Packers score a touchdown later on, which they did, you need to be able to go for 2 and still have a chance to tie it up. By him going for 2 early in the game, not getting it, Packers score a touchdown. Now they're up 9. Now you can't score a touchdown and go for 2 and tie it up. Now it's a 2-possession game. And that proved to bite them in the butt later on in the game. As the Packers scored a touchdown, the Jaguars got a field goal to cut it to 6. Packers add on a late field goal to stretch it back out to 9, and now you can't tie the football game up. And that's why, making decisions as a head coach is really large, because it can penalize your team later on, and it did. If it works, it's a smart and a very shrewd move on your part. If it doesn't, it's going to backfire. It didn't work for Jacksonville, and they lose this game 24-15 on the road against the Packers. And a hard-fought game. They really were in this game, and I thought they played well enough to win this football game, honestly. They really played a good sound. Blaine Gabbert went over 300 yards in this game. They had opportunities, but again, they're not a good football team. And when you're not a good football team, you're not going to win on the road a lot of times. It's just not going to happen. And it was a hard-fought game on the part of the Jags. They just didn't do enough. Aaron Rodgers struggled. He didn't go over 200 yards passing. And if we were to look at the stats, I bet you this is the first time he hasn't eclipsed 200 yards passing in probably well over double-digit games. I'm pretty sure this dates back to about 2 seasons ago or something to that effect, where he hasn't eclipsed 200 yards passing in a game. I mean, they really stifled him defensively, and he didn't have anybody to throw the football to. I mean, he found it hard time and time again to go out there and throw to guys that he's just not used to having to throw the football to. And he had drops. But again, you're throwing to guys who you're not familiar with, guys that you don't take a lot of reps with, and it showed. This offense was struggling, but luckily enough for them, the special team stepped up, the defense stepped up, and you were playing Jacksonville. So you get a win. 24-15, Packers go to 4-3 on the season, eclipsing the 500 mark for the first time this season. And now you have to look out. If you're Minnesota, if you're Chicago, now you have to watch out. Now you have to start looking behind your back. Here come the Packers, winners of 3 straight. Meanwhile, Jacksonville drops another one. Now they're 1-6 on the season, and they're one of the worst teams in the league. What can you say? This is what you expect from Jacksonville on a week-in, week-out basis. They drop another one. I will say this, though. Cecil Shorts, their young rookie receiver, I like him a lot. You should, too. This is a guy that Blaine Gabbert is starting to go to time and time again. He's starting to trust him. This is their best big play receiver. Cecil Shorts is turning into a playmaker for the Jacksonville Jaguars on a team that is void of playmakers. He looks to be the lone bright spot out there. at the receiver position. And they drafted and spent their first round selection on Justin Blackmon, who really has done nothing to speak of to this point. So if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, while it's very encouraging to see Cecil Shorts out there balling, you got to be disappointed that he's been your best receiver to this point when you went out and spent a first round selection on Justin Blackmon. You got to get more out of him, and right now it's not looking like you're going to get that this season. But we move on. Probably one of the biggest surprises of the day, the Miami Dolphins travel to the Jets in some family business that I thought the Dolphins should have been able to take care of the first time around in Miami. They went to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets, and they absolutely dominated this game start to finish. I didn't see this one coming. I thought the Dolphins had as good a shot as any to go into the Meadowlands, into MetLife Stadium, and take care of the Jets. I thought they could do it. I didn't have the confidence to pull the trick on it because they're a young team, young head coach, young quarterback. Just thought that the Jets were playing better football of late, and they were going to be able to protect their house. Man, did they come out and lay an egg or what? They were dominated. And when I say dominated start to finish, by the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, they were trailing 17-0 in this football game. I mean, the Dolphins really took it to them early in this football game. And they came out, they ran the football, put together a nice little opening drive of the game and got a field goal. Jets get the football and do nothing with it. Look out of sync on offense. They tried to run the football. Dolphins weren't having it. They were geared up to stop Sean Green. And if you're going to play the Jets, that has to be your primary mission. Make Mark Sanchez beat me because I don't think he can. If you're an NFL team and you have to play the Jets, your sole goal should be to stop the run. Don't allow Sean Green to take any pressure off of Mark Sanchez. Make Mark Sanchez beat you. And that's what the Dolphins set out to do. Mission accomplished. They stopped the running game and forced them to punt. What do you know? They blocked the punt. I mean, they dominated the Jets on special teams in this game. Early on in this football game, after making that field goal, they attempt an onside kick. They recover it, do the Dolphins. They don't get anything from it. But that just goes to show you that they were out coaching these Jets in this game. Not only on the field were they beating the Jets, but on the sidelines, they were more prepared with the Dolphins. They block a punt right up the middle. Tebow, the personal protector, he picks up one guy, but another one comes scot-free. There had to be some kind of miscommunication on the part of that interior line and the personal protector and the rest of those Jets blockers up in the middle because no one blocked this Dolphins defender. He blocks the punt. It goes into the end zone. Perfect carom. Recovered by the Dolphins. Touchdown. It's 10-0 just like that. Just like that, it's a 10-0 ball game. Jets go back on offense. They force a fumble from Mark Sanchez. The Dolphins recover. A couple plays later, they're in the end zone. It's 17-0. I mean, they dominated this football game start to finish. And the Jets knocked Ryan Tannehill out of this game on the second possession. He was done. He was in the locker room, had trouble with his knee after being sacked on a play, and he didn't come back. But they have a luxury that few teams in the league have. A solid, borderline starter as a veteran quarterback at backup in Matt Moore. And he came right off the bench, ready to go. Just as the Titans found out, it pays to have a veteran quarterback on your bench that's been a starter in this league that can get it done. And he came in, did not miss a beat. He was throwing darts, and managed this game well, didn't turn it over. And they went out and they throttled this Jets team on the road. This was surprising because the Jets were playing what we thought was better football of late. And the Dolphins were on the road. The Jets were the home team here. And you just thought this was going to be a tightly contested ball game. Even if the Jets were to lose this game, they weren't going to come out and allow the Dolphins to dominate them at home. The Jets were going to have a chance to win, probably have a Sanchez turnover or two late that gives the Dolphins an opportunity to win, and the Dolphins take advantage of it and get them. That's how you thought this game was going to go down if the Jets, in fact, did lose. But I didn't think the Jets were going to lose. I thought the fact that the Jets were home, this was a divisional matchup. They got the Dolphins the first time they went on the road you thought they said, okay, we barely escaped that first time. We got to play better. We're going to take care of business at home. No, it was the direct opposite. The Dolphins said, we let one slip away the first time. That's our fault. We should have been able to sweep these guys this season. We let one slip away. Now we're going to go back into Meadowlands, into MetLife Stadium, and get what's ours. That was our win earlier in the season in week 3. We let it slip away. Now we're coming to go and recoup that win that we gave away. And they did it in a big way. Dominated this game. Never really gave the Jets a chance. And the Boo Birds came out. And Sanchez did not have a great showing, but he didn't lose this game by himself. I'm not a big proponent of Mark Sanchez. I've been screaming, put in Tim Tebow for the longest time, but this game wasn't his fault. This was not his loss. He didn't do this on his own. This was a total team collapse. No one showed up. No one played well. Special teams was terrible in this game. Offensive line did not do a good job of protecting Mark Sanchez. And the defense, they were put in some bad situations, but they didn't step up and rise to the occasion. They gave up plays, and they allowed the Dolphins to put touchdowns on the board instead of field goals and let this thing get out of hand. And so this is a total team loss if you're the Jets. And these are the type of losses that send your team reeling, especially after coming off the game you had against the Patriots where you felt like, hey, we can compete in this division. We should have beat the Patriots in New England. We let them slip away, but now we're playing better football. Now you come back and you have this kind of lackluster performance at home. Where do you start? Where do you begin to make changes? I just don't know. You're going into your bye week, and that's the worst type of taste to have in your mouth going into the bye week is a crushing defeat at home where you can't really plug the dike. You don't have enough fingers to plug the dike because so many things went wrong in the football game. So if you're the Jets, this one is tough to swallow. But the Dolphins come in to MetLife against the Jets and thoroughly abuse, dominate, and obliterate the New York Jets 30-9 in this football game. And it was never close. Never was this game ever in doubt. The Dolphins came out from the start, got it done, and never let up. They never took their foot off of the gas pedal. And they got the job done on the road. This was impressive. And now you have to shift your focus from the Jets in the AFC East to the Dolphins now. If the Dolphins can play like this on the road against a team in the division, this thing is up for grabs. We already spoke about it in the preview on Friday. This division is up for grabs. If you want a shot, you got to go out and make some things happen. The Buffalo Bills had opportunities to do it. They blew it. Now they're going in the wrong direction. The Jets had opportunities the last 2 weeks. They blew it. Now they're going in the wrong direction. However, the Dolphins, winners of 3 straight, going on the road in a division and taking care of business. Now they're a team that if you're the Patriots, you have to look out for. They're the new kids on the block. They're young, they're hungry, and they're not afraid to go into someone else's house, smack them around, and come out with the victory. Jets 9, Dolphins 30. On the road, the Dolphins get it done, taking their record to 4-3. The first time they've been over 500 on this season. Meanwhile, the Jets are going in reverse. After riding the ship somewhat a couple weeks back, getting to 3-3 on the season, they've dropped 2 straight, and now they're 3-5 on the season. And you got to get this thing righted during the bye week if you're Rex Ryan, because this thing could spiral out of control, and you won't be able to save the season, and you may not be able to save your job if you're not careful. Next up on our travels through the slate of games as we continue to skate through the slate of games, we find ourselves in Chicago, where the Chicago Bears were hosting the Carolina Panthers. And this game was a matchup between two teams that are going in opposite directions. The Panthers can't seem to get a win. They can't seem to find a remedy for their ills. Meanwhile, the Bears are playing hot football right now. Winners of 4 straight after dropping that game to the Packers in Green Bay. They haven't looked back. They haven't even really been challenged since that game. They've really been blowing out all of their opponents. The game last week, the score indicates that it was close, but they totally dominated in that football game. And so coming into this game, you felt like something had to give. The Panthers they're going to get someone soon here. They're going to get someone shortly. They can't continue to lose football games the way they've been losing. And they've been coming close, but they just aren't able to get over the hump. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears have been scoring points, but it's been a lot to do with their defense more so than their offense. The offense is putting together about 13 points a game. Meanwhile, the defense is saying, hey, you give us 13, we'll give you 14. That gives us 27. You do your job and we'll do ours, and we'll get you a couple more scores. So the Bears have been reliant on this defense all season long, and it's been really paying dividends for them. They've been getting it done, and they've been putting teams away by stifling them with the defense and then forcing turnovers and getting points off of those turnovers. So the Panthers come into this game, and they needed to diversify their offense. Everything looks the same. It's too much of the same thing going on week after week for the Panthers. Teams know what they're going to do, and they've been able to stop this Panthers offense, and that's why they haven't been really successful. I think they have a lot of parts that they're not utilizing correctly. So they came into this game struggling on the offensive end. And early in this game, both teams struggled on the offensive end as the defenses came out and were sharp early on. The Bears were able to strike first as they put together a nice drive, a good combination of run and pass, culminating in a Matt Forte run for a touchdown as they jump on the Panthers 7-0. After that touchdown, the Panthers settled down and they scored 19 unanswered points in this football game. During that stretch, Cam Newton fumbled the football at the 1, going in the end zone for a score, which Louis Murphy pounced on in the end zone, was able to save the day, which allowed the Panthers to get a touchdown, their first of the day. Then Newton was picked off on a feeble attempt to get rid of the football after being pressured. It was picked off by Tim Jennings, and a great play by Jennings to be able to be aware that that ball wasn't going to make it out of bounds and to go pick it off. But on the next play, that Panthers pass rush, which was very active this whole entire game, forced a fumble from Jay Cutler and got the football right back to the Panthers. And they were able to score more points. And they also were able to get a rare miss from Robbie Gould. His first non-blocked miss of the season, and this was from 33 yards. Very windy in this game. And windy in a lot of stadiums because of remnants from Hurricane Sandy. And so this was a bad week for punters. I watched every single game on the slate this week, and punters struggled. If you had an outside game, your punter probably struggled this week. And I saw a lot of kicks shanked out of bounds. I seen the wind beat up a lot of kicks, knock them down. I saw a lot of kicks that were blocked. I seen a lot of kicks that came out on line drives, giving opportunities to returners. I just seen a lot of bad kicks from punters all around the league. Punters struggled this week, and the weather had a little bit to do with it. Protection for these punters had a little bit to do with it. And then punters just weren't focusing in on their craft and getting it done. Even though the elements weren't in their favor, they still weren't getting it done. A lot of shanks off of the side of foot of kickers. And so, a bad day for punters. Robbie Gould misses a field goal to add to the bad day for special teams units all across the league. And so the Panthers were feeling good about themselves. They were able to get 4 field goals out of Justin Medlock and add that touchdown that Louis Murphy pounced on in the end zone. And they were up 19-7 in this game. But as bad teams normally do on the road, they implode. And so the Bears were able to put together a masterful drive, capped off by a strike, a absolute dart to Kellen Davis from Jay Cutler. And it's about time to see Kellen Davis step up as a tight end for the Bears. I feel like that's the one area on the Bears offense that they're really lacking. They don't have any production out of their tight end position. And I don't feel bad for them. They had Greg Olsen and they allowed Mike Martz to run him out of town. And so now they have to pay for it. They don't have any production out of their tight end position. And you would think Kellen Davis would be more of a threat in the red zone as he plucked this one out of the air. You would think his 6'8" frame in the red zone would be all but unstoppable. But the Bears don't utilize him. And he doesn't make plays. But he made a play on this one, caught it. Bears get a touchdown, cut the lead to 19-14. And on the very next play, On offense for the Panthers, first play from scrimmage after that touchdown was scored. Cam Newton throws a pass out to Steve Smith, who had a big day against Tim Jennings, but he slipped on a comeback route. Ball sailed, went to Tim Jennings, who picked it off, ran it down the sideline for a touchdown. Bears are just like that, blink of an eye, are now ahead 21-19 in this ball game. And that's what happens to bad teams on the road. You've been winning a football game all game long and really have been in control. 2 scores in a matter of 48 seconds, and just like that, you're losing a football game. Really hurts. But they were able to rebound, get their wits about themselves, go down the field, get a field goal, take the lead 22-21 with just about a little bit over a minute left in this ballgame. So they were really in the driver's seat. Second time this season that the Panthers have had a lead with less than 2 minutes to go in a football game and not found a way to hold on. Jay Cutler takes the ball, and they need a field goal. And they ran the same play about 4 times. I watched this game down the stretch. And they ran the same slant, post, whatever you want to call it, to Brandon Marshall and Earl Bennett over and over. They ran it at least 4 times in a row. And the Panthers did nothing to stop it. 4 times in a row, they caught the same pass, got down the field, got in the field goal range, and Robbie Gould deposits a game-winning field goal as the Bears eke it out at home against the Carolina Panthers, who continue to find ways to lose close ball games. 24-22 on the road to the Chicago Bears, as the Bears now elevate their record to 6-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Panthers, and it's just been tough luck for them. Cam Newton finally goes over the 300-yard mark, and he throws 2 picks in this game, but the offense just looked a lot more fluid. And he missed a lot of throws in this game. He was very sporadic in this game. Some throws that he probably should have made, and if he had to do over again, would probably have made better throws. But again, you put your team ahead with less than 2 minutes in a game, you should be able to come away with the win. Your defense should be able to do enough to get the stop to win the football game. And again, the Panthers defense couldn't get it done in a critical situation to hold on to a ball game. And so they fall to 1-6 on the season. So now if you're the Panthers, you just go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to get another victory in that win column. If you're the Bears, another hard-fought victory, another victory where you had to rely on your defense to get another touchdown. If you're the Bears, you're really skating on thin ice. You're winning football games, and that's what good teams do. You don't care how you get them. You just stack up victories like bricks, and at the end of the season, take a step back and look at your victories and figure out if they were enough to get you a couple of home playoff games, to get you a bye, or if they were just enough to get you into the show. But you're getting the job done right now. But again, against good teams, teams who aren't going to self-destruct, teams who are going to be able to score points, teams who aren't going to give you defensive scores, will you be able to hold up and win football games? I'm not sure right now. But you're getting it done nonetheless. You're 6-1, and you got another victory at home against the Carolina Panthers, 24-22.